Hey everyone, welcome back to Pointless Perspectives. This week we are going to be talking about a book. The book is Serpent Dove by
Shelby Mahern. Wait,
there.
Mahern.
Yeah, there we go.
I don't know how to say it.
I didn't want to mess it up, but I messed it up. Anyways, so basically we're gonna talk more general about this book, just because books are a little bit more of a commitment, and we don't want to spoil it for you guys because we genuinely think that this is a dope book to read and something that we're both very excited to talk about.
Yes. Also, it's probably not something that you might have known existed because I feel like something that I've struggled with books is like to know when new ones are coming out. Like I've lost that connection of like knowing if a new book has come out. Like like remember in like elementary and middle school, like you'd go to the library and you would see
Oh
like
my
some
god,
new
like the
books.
new ones,
Yeah, and you
yes.
just like rented. I don't even know how to
Borrow
check
it,
it
right?
out,
Check it out.
borrow,
There we
check it
go.
out, and then you would read it in your free time. And then, but now, like, not having access to, like, I mean, we'd still have access to libraries, but not going to a
Yeah,
library to see, like, what's new. I feel like figuring out books and, like, either ordering them or, like, finding, like, ebooks
difficult.
to read is, like, so much more difficult. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, one of the things with Serpent and Dove, which is that it came out last year. So, it's
It's like
relatively
pretty
new.
new. Yeah. It's pretty new. And big news if y'all end up reading this and you like it, the sequel came out like I think September 1st or something like that, and it's called
Yeah, it
Blood
came out
Honey.
exactly a year after the first book. So,
Oh, snap. She's on a timeline. She's doing good.
yeah,
Uh,
originally, like I mean, I swear, it originally was a duology, which means that it was just supposed to be two books. But
hmm.
then,
She was like,
I
"Nah, nah,
think,
nah, nah. Too much.
yeah,
I got it."
I think the publishing company or something said, you know what, let's make it a trilogy since I guess the first one did so well, and so now she's getting a third book probably sometime next year.
If that doesn't tell you that this book is good, I don't know what will, guys. Um, the fact that
Yeah,
they were like 3 books, no longer 2.
change your whole ending of your second book so that
Yes,
there's
figure
a
it out.
cliffhanger, please.
Exactly. Okay. So we're kind of going to do it a little bit similar to how we normally structure episodes, with a little bit of a summary, a bit more general, and then like main characters. Because obviously, if you haven't read it, it's going to be confusing if we keep saying their names and you have no idea. All right.
Yep.
So, brief summary. 2 years ago, Louis LeBlanc, aka Lou. By the way, this has a lot of like French origins, like inspo, and
Yes,
so the
yes.
names are so much fun to say.
Everything like from the setting to like the character names is very French inspired. I'm sure there's some history associated with witch hunting. I mean, Europe in general and like
They got a lot of shit, man.
the older centuries had like the witch stuff, so I
Yeah.
understand that connection, but I think there's something more specific coming with the French influence.
Mm. I'm definitely excited to see that and like see her explore a bit more. But
Mm.
basically, Louise, aka Lou, is how she's referenced throughout the book. Ran away from her coven, and for those of you that are not well versed in magic and fantasy like genres, it's basically a gathering a group of witches. She gave up magic, found refuge in the city of Cesarine, and began stealing to survive. The biggest problem was that witches are hunted in the city of Cesarine, so if Lou's true identity as a witch is ever discovered, she will be violently burned at the stake. On the other hand, we have Reed Diggory, a
Didn't
man.
give a pretty picture there.
Yes,
Violently.
I'm trying to depict it, you know? On the other hand, we have Reed Diggory, a man that has sworn his life to the church, that is so hell bent on ridding the world of witches. He is one of the noblest chasseurs, which are basically the fancy title given to the knights whose sole purpose is killing witches. He's devout to the church because they basically adopted him. He was an orphan and they took him in. So he's super devout, and he kind of eats, sleeps, and breathes the whole "thou shalt not allow a witch to live" type deal.
Hmm.
And as in many of these enemies to lovers type stories, those two, Lou and Reed, are two sides of the same coin. They were never meant to meet, but a chance occurrence and a slightly devious escape plan landed them both in a union that they never wanted: marriage. This book basically tells the story of Lou and Reed's individual struggles with their identities, as well as their growth and understanding together that comes from this hella weird type arrangement. So yeah.
Yeah, so you have the what opposites attract and the enemies to lovers concepts really flowing through this book. Well, Rhea went through about Lou and Reed. So then there's going to be some side characters like Lou's best friend Coco. She's also a witch, but she is a of the coven Dame Rouge, which is essentially a different type of witch.
I
So
didn't go over that. I have to
yeah,
go over.
yeah.
Oh,
So Lou is said to be a Dame Blanche. Um, okay. You know what? Maybe we should preface that I'm gonna probably butcher every single pronunciation because I don't know French at all or
Francais.
and how to pronounce anything in this language. So I'm just gonna be giving my very horrible approach at saying these things. But anyways, Lou is a Dame Blanche, which essentially means that in that's her coven, and then their coven they have a balance of nature aspect to it, which is basically whenever they perform magic, they see a golden thread attached to something that they can give from themselves, whether it's like physically breaking like a finger or like losing a memory in order to, I guess, perform the act of magic. And for that same balance uh, of nature aspect that these witches have, Coco, who is a Dame Rouge, it's usually her blood. She's a blood witch. So, like, based using her blood or like cutting herself essentially will, yeah,
Yes.
will
Essentially
essentially
just like giving her blood. Her blood is like valuable. It's like a gold, so
yeah,
it's like a
it's
trade-off.
what it's the exchange given in order to perform the magic that she wants to. So those are the witches in the story. You also obviously we talked about Reed being also being the lead witch hunter. He's very pious, very religious.
Oh,
Heavy church influences and storyline in this
mm,
book. Eh, you know, when he and Lou get married, he doesn't know that Lou is a witch. So it's really about Lou trying to cover up the fact that she's a witch from Reed. Then there's also a friend, I guess a subordinate of Reed Ansel Diggory, who's part of the church as well.
you know, like
He's
the
a he's
new
an
guy.
initiate. Basically, he's not a hunter yet, but he's been like training to become one.
Mm.
um, he's a pretty good character towards like the middle and end because you know someone that I think Lou confides in more than we realize. And then I think those are like the main characters. There's other characters like Madame LaBelle, which is, you know, I feel like a lot of parts of her give away a lot of the story points, so I don't want to like give more other than the fact that she is the owner of Belle Rose, which is technically a prostitution house. And
Yeah,
there's
there's
no other way.
a lot of great things going on here.
I mean, there's no other way that I can like phrase it other than it's a prostitution house. And then some other side characters come in that end up having some bigger roles at the end of the book.
Oh, yeah, so that's like the basic overview. We gave you a little summary, we gave you the characters, and now we're just going to delve into more so the concepts and the overall themes, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, like we said, enemies to lovers. It's obviously fantasy fiction. It's a
You
YA
couldn't
novel.
tell.
Yeah, it's a YA novel. Has romance.
That's
There's
romance.
some strong language.
Oh,
I
oh,
don't know
yes.
if that's how I want to
A
phrase it.
little bit explicit, if you
Yeah,
will.
I mean that did throw me off. I thought it's so weird to
I was
say, but
not expecting it for a YA
for a
novel.
YA novel, like you know, I've read a fair share
A fair
of
share of YA novels, yes.
YA novels, and not, and you know, like they don't like avoid the words, but they kind of like beat around the bush and try not to use like
Yeah. They're not as like upfront about the cussing. They'll figure out like cusses in like their area, like their whatever
Yeah.
like language like their that they use. So they'll
Mm,
be like, "Oh, gosh darn it," but like in the
yeah.
form of like stuff like
Yeah.
that.
But I think that could be like us being well, us our view of YA novels not changing, but YA novels
Changing.
evolving over time
Yeah.
for the current sets of teenagers.
It has been a while since I've read like a newer like YA novel.
Yeah, because like I'm thinking like when we were
It was like what? It was
12 to
like
15.
Percy Jackson, like that stuff. It
Yeah,
was
those like when we were considered young adults and reading those books,
we were like,
cursing
"Oh no, cussing."
yeah, cursing was like a big like step back. But I mean, I didn't read like everything available, right?
Yeah.
There's so many more books that I've found out that existed when we were
I was
young that I never touched into
I
at the
was
time.
definitely a bookworm. So like I read a heck of a ton of like YA novels, very fantasy, lots of not romance, but like rom-com esque stuff.
Mm-mm.
You know, and like all of those like big like YA like girls novels like Cabot or something like that, and
Yeah,
like
Princess Diaries was Meg Cabot, right?
mhm,
Yeah.
yeah.
I read that late too. I read that like later in high school when I felt like reading
Mm,
novels again. And I didn't read it at the time that I was reading more books. I
yeah.
noticed that when I was reading stuff in like middle school, it was like definitely more mystery based and
Oh
like
yes, I love mystery books.
realistic fiction
Mm.
maybe is the best way. There was this one author that I feel really bad that I don't remember her name because I used to watch like so many read so many of the books.
I was so obsessed with like well, Nancy Drew was like how I got started with mystery, but then like Trixie Belden, like I don't know if you ever heard of her, but she was also
No.
like a Nancy Drew type S character, and I
Mm.
love those books so much.
I think the biggest fantasy books I read were Percy Jackson, like Rick Riordan books.
Mm.
I feel like everything else at the time was dystopian, which is still
Oh, that was a huge
fantasy,
thing.
but
Like
it was
Hunger
like
Games and all
realistic dystopian novels. They
that.
weren't like
Oh.
super they weren't fantasy based
Mm.
essentially.
I read Hunger Games hella late though. Like Hunger Games and Divergent, all of those. I was like, yeah, I don't wanna. But like,
Okay, I'm about to admit something.
uh,
So like I own all of the Hunger Games, like I own the Hunger Games trilogy,
yeah.
but I didn't read oh, it's so weird. I watched the first movie and then I didn't read the first book. I just read the second book.
Just the second one, not even the
Yeah, I
third
didn't
one. You're like,
yeah.
nah, screw it.
I actually don't exactly know how the story ends.
To be honest, I don't think I remember. Like, okay, I read.
I
Okay, so
tried.
I watched the movie. Like, you see,
Yes.
the trying is appreciated. The effort is there.
I
Um,
also did not watch movie 2 and 3.
Oh, I watched all the movies. I was like, because like all my friends were obsessed, and I was like, I don't really, I don't know, but like I watched it, and then I
No.
tried. I was like, okay, I'll read it, and then like I read the first book, I read the second book. The second book was probably the best book, and the third
Yeah,
book
it
I
was
was
way
like,
more fast paced. My
yeah, and
issue was the pacing of the books. I felt like I
oh my god,
tried the first book, like reading it, and then it was slow. Like she starts it off pretty slow. And I was like, nah. So then I was like, I know what happens. I watched the movie, which
like
every like
why am
actual
I?
book lover is like screaming at me right now for just saying that. But
How dare
okay,
you?
yeah. uh, it happens. And so I went
It
and I
is.
read this started the
It is
second
what
one,
it is.
and it was a lot better. It was
Yeah.
yes.
I
I
don't think
know. I
I
feel
ever read Princess Diaries though. Like I just watched the movies and I was like, okay, I'm good.
I just it happens.
It do.
I okay, I found the author of the books I read a lot of in middle school, Sarah Dessen.
Oh yes. Oh, she was the one. She had all the yeah. Yeah. I
So
don't
many
so many of those like
rom-com,
rom-com like
romantic.
it was like
She's probably the
romantic
reason why I love rom-coms.
maybe. Maybe good point.
She's from
Um
Illinois.
ooh. Shout out Chicago. But like, okay.
Sure.
No, but I think she definitely wrote like a lot of like, like kind of like not girly books, but like books about like girls and like their crushes and like that whole journey between like getting your crush and like things like
Yeah.
that.
I'm like looking at her book list and they were all early 2000 published, so I almost realized I think a lot of it was like she had so many books out already when I
Yeah,
was in middle school, and I knew that the storyline was always like some form of like romance, and every book was a different type of romance. Like because she, I think, prided herself in like showing that there is uh different sets of love, or love is different depending
yeah,
on the
for
situation.
sure. I think yeah. Ugh. There's so many things we could talk about when it comes to like love and like rom-coms and books like in general, just because like I feel like our generation more so grew up on books than like Netflix and YouTube and stuff like that. Not to say that like they weren't around, but like I don't know, I spent more time as a kid reading books, and now I spend so much time watching Netflix, and I don't regret it. I do not regret watching Netflix, but I miss those times when I could like read a book in like a day and like call it.
I think it was like the only form of true entertainment because like if you think about mm, 9 to 12-year-old us, like it was mainly what like Disney, Nick,
Ugh,
Cartoon
ugh,
Network.
OG Disney, OG
It was also
Nick,
a
so
time where
good.
like streaming wasn't a
Yeah,
big thing, and so
definitely.
from there,
We
like
still
you
had ads,
enter like
man.
yeah. So from there, you're like books were easy because you didn't like you said you didn't have ads. You didn't have to wait. You could just
Yeah,
finish the book. The biggest wait was if you were reading a trilogy and you were waiting for the next one, and
yeah.
or reading a series and you were waiting for the next one.
Oh my
But so
god,
many really good series at that point came
they're
out
out. Yeah,
when we were really too young to read it. So by the time we got to that age, they were all available, right? Like Percy Jackson
yeah.
was completed, Harry Potter was completed.
I will forever love my like childhood best friend for the sole reason that every time like she read a book and she thought it was interesting, she would literally buy those books, gift me them, and she wouldn't just gift me one, she would gift me the whole trilogy. So I didn't have to
Oh
wait
wow!
every time so I could read it. And like she knew the books that I loved. So like I would read them and love them and be like, "Yes, I don't have to go to the library and like try and get put on
Just
like
think
the
of the
hold list and stuff."
money sent paying for your books, because back then too, like a lot of those books that
Hella
when they first came
expensive.
out were they were all hardcover, so you were paying extra for those things.
Yes, I love my best friend. She is amazing. We still talk about books to this day. It's fantastic.
That's really cool. Yeah, I I was telling my mom this the other day. Is that I was looking at my like book collection, and they're like all like the third book in a series because what young me used to do was read the first and second books that were like out already from the library, and then the
Mm.
third book would come out. So I would just buy that one or order that one, and then so that I could read it.
Oh, I
Or like
see.
some new book would come out in the series and I would just buy that one because it just came out and I would have it on hand, but it's not the first one. So then I just have like these the third books in a series that I didn't even start or finish.
Nice. Solid. It's fine. They're like good decoration. They add to the vibe of the room. And we love that.
Tragic though to see like Allegiant, but not.
Not anything else.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Okay. We have to stay on topic a little bit. We literally started out enemies to lovers and we went like
Oh
um
yeah, we went 180. We just went into the book genre
yeah, we
of
went to
conversation
yeah, have you seen like
because
that
we don't.
TikTok
I mean,
that like
honestly, like we don't talk about books. Like
yeah, we
our
normally talk about like
personal.
TV shows and stuff. But
Yeah, because
like
we don't read books that often, so
that's true. Like especially like being in college, you have to read like so much other like academia related stuff. So like it's not like you necessarily want to read a whole other book.
I think it's also like watching TV or watching a movie while is very common to do while you're doing other things because you can just hear it
Yeah.
and see it and you don't need to like pay that much attention to it.
Mhm.
But with a book, you have to read.
Yeah, you
which
actually have to physically, like, be there, be present.
can't multitask with a book. So
Exactly.
when we have all this work to do, we don't think of taking our break times to read. We'd rather just watch the quick YouTube video that's 10
Exactly.
minutes.
Exactly. No, I think it I don't know if you've seen that, like, TikTok. I'm not on TikTok per se, but, like, I've seen it all over, like, the, like, off-brand, like, Instagram stuff, like
Yes, reels.
yes, the reels, and so, like, there's that one where it's, like, it goes, like, from point A to point B, and it's a straight line, and then
Mhm.
the other one, it's like, "Ding, ding, ding,"
Oh
and
yeah,
then it
like
goes, like,
yeah,
all the
I
way
know the
around.
whole
I
trend.
feel
Yeah,
like that was our, like, just our conversation over the past, like, couple of minutes, just, like,
no,
everywhere.
it be like that sometimes.
They really do,
I
man, they
mean,
really do.
the last two episodes of us like really following one topic of conversation is actually very new for us.
That's
I
true, because
think
we talk
this
about
like the having no real guide in our like just talking about something kind of related but not really exactly what the goal was is more like what we would talk about or
this
how
is
we would
true.
speak to one another.
Definitely. We go off on, like, so many tangents.
Yeah,
Like
we're going off on one now.
okay, stop! We gotta get with it. Okay, so enemies to lovers. Um,
Yes, yes, a
okay,
great trope.
so very big trope. I really loved it because, like, okay, so in a lot of books, like your typical like rom-coms, it happens not rom-coms, but like romantic genre, like it happens really fast and it happens like very predictably. But in this book specifically, like, there was a lot of buildup, there was a lot of, like, butting heads, and it wasn't all, like, happy stuff. It wasn't like, "Oh my god, he's not really that bad." Like, "Oh my god, maybe I could love him." No,
I
it
think
was like she hated him, like, off the
yeah.
bat.
Yeah, I think it was really nice to see them being like having their faults but not being like obviously bad. Like
Yeah.
there wasn't like a character like they were obviously mean to one another, but they weren't really
They didn't
abusive or
cross
like
lines, I feel
yeah,
like.
they weren't like extremely negative like attributes in each of the
Yeah.
characters. And I think reading some more novels, especially during this quarantine time, I see like in the older like YA enemies to lovers
Mm.
concepts, you see like a very like manipulative negative side to the
Yeah.
enemy's part, and then suddenly they're supposed to become lovers. I mean, not suddenly, like I actually was gonna argue on the point of you saying that it was slow because I was gonna say like them like Shelby Mahern, like not okay
We're
Shelby,
definitely gonna mess it up. Shelby,
yeah,
we'll just go.
Shelby going from like enemies or like hating each other to loving each other in one novel to me or one book to me was actually quicker than I expected. For
Really?
But I think this had to tie into the fact that she probably only thought she had two books.
Mm,
And
yeah.
I only say like I thought it was quick because I have since read the Cruel Prince trilogy, which is like
Ooh,
it has a different name, but we'll call it the Cruel Prince trilogy from Holly Black, and like she essentially
builds it up over a while.
takes up the three books to build it up.
Yeah.
We'll say it like that. And so but then Shelby here, she was like, I want this
See,
done in one book.
he's like, come on, we gotta get this going. But like, I think also like this book had like three parts. So like I feel like a lot of even though like it might not have been a lot of time wise, but a lot of stuff happened during that time, which
Yeah,
is why
that's
I was
true.
like, "Oh my god." Like, okay, it's been building up for a while. It's like taken some time. Even if it's not like physical time, it's just like so much emotional stuff. That's
That's
like,
true. They go through a lot emotionally, which acts into why they get closer towards the end,
yeah.
and I also think it's the whole like taking a stiff guy and having a crazy girl melt the stiffness away. I think
It
that's a good way
melted
to
his
phrase it.
heart. The ice around. He was Jack Frost, and she was like a warm person. Actually, no, not
Yeah, I
in
was like, no,
no,
he
not
was
in
just
any
like
way.
he was just stubborn in his ways and she was more
I think
carefree.
also stubborn in her ways. No.
Yeah, they both were, but like she was more crass
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
and forward.
He was like all prim and like proper and like trying to be okay. So like when they got married, this isn't like spoiling, but when they got married, like he was super respectful and like he gave her his bed and he like slept on like the
Yeah,
rock
because that's
hard
like
floor
those
and
are
stuff like
like
that.
the good characteristics you are supposed
Yeah,
to be
yeah,
as like the man. Yeah,
yeah. But he
at
was
least
super like
at the
respectful and
church.
like he wouldn't. I don't know if he would touch her like right off the bat, but like he was very like gentle with her.
I mean, the whole storyline of like physical affection throughout the book, I will say, was very consent based.
Yeah. So it was like very like he was very by the book and she like I think a lot of what made their relationship like develop was her just making fun of him. Like
Pushing his boundaries, yes.
yeah. She'd be
Making him
like
want to
poking
fight
the
him.
bear.
Yeah, essentially, I mean, I just read somewhere he's 6'6".
And she's like this tiny ass like
Yeah,
wisp
and
of
she's
a
like probably
girl.
like five something, and so he was supposed to be huge.
Giant. Giant man.
Literally, yeah. I completely did not. I don't think I even visualized him as I was reading, like visualized Reed as I was reading the book, anything like he was supposed to be. For some reason, I forgot that he was a redhead throughout the book.
Same. Same. I was like, oh my god, like brown hair, like buff kind of guy. Like I kept it tall and stuff like that, but like
No, no, that is the brainwashing of 2010
that is
novels,
very true. That is, I
because
will
every
admit
main
that.
lead in like
I thought it was
Harry
blonde
Potter, Twilight, like they all usually have either brown hair
though.
and like blue green eyes,
Yeah.
essentially
Or like
white. And then that was it. And then
I
so,
mean
like
that's
I still
true.
struggle
We
with
still
like,
struggling for diversity, you know?
well, that's what I'm saying. Like even like when there are diverse characters, like I don't initially picture them as POC.
That's
Like
what I love
Coco.
about like Coco was right off the bat, like you knew kind of. Like when I
Yeah.
read it, I was like, yeah, and because like they described her, I believe. Like Shelby described her
Yep,
well.
but it's still like so difficult for me to visualize the character that
Yeah.
way, and I see him a little differently. And I think Reed being a redhead really threw me in for a hard
Yeah.
time
Oh, for
to
sure.
remember.
I definitely thought he was like brown hair, like or like no, because they said like his blue eyes or something like that were like, or he had like blue green eyes or something that were like super
I
pretty.
think, yeah,
And the immediate
something colored.
association for me was like blonde or like brown, and I was like, cool. And I was like, then I find out red, and I was like, oh,
Oh, red.
cool. Who would have
Uh.
thought? Yeah,
It
it's
makes
just
it
like
sound like
so
we hate
conditioned.
redheads.
No, no, no. It's just like so
I know.
conditioned, and
It's
it's just
just
like
different.
I get it. Like it's bad on us. Like we're getting better, okay, guys. But like that wasn't like exactly. It wasn't the immediate thought, and like I kind of like in before like we talk about these things, we definitely like kind of review stuff, and so like one of the websites I looked at was like the wiki page, and it has
Mhm.
like a kind of drawing of sorts or like a
Yeah,
model
yeah.
of what Reed looks like and what Lou looks like and stuff like that. And I'm looking at that and I'm like, oh my god, that is not what I saw in my head at all.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
No, no, no. But yeah, it's definitely like I did not like I knew he was I didn't see for me, height is all relative. If I am short in real life, it's very sad.
She's very short, yes.
Wow, cool. Thank you for that vote of confidence. Great. But yeah, so like everything to me
Well,
is just
you're just being
tall.
truthful. You started the
This is
conversation
you
of
are
being
correct.
short, and so I just
Yeah,
confirmed for
yep, the
other people who
audience,
listen.
yep. Thanks. Thanks for that. I was so excited to go, but then I played myself. It's fine. So
You
yeah,
didn't.
so
This could have been completely avoided. You were the one that
this is yeah,
brought
I
your
played
own
myself.
downfall.
It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Uh, but basically, like for me, everything's tall because like I always have to look up. So I don't really realize how tall 6'6" is, but it's literally like more than a foot taller than me.
It's exactly a foot taller than me,
Yeah. Okay.
and so
Yeah, you're tall.
No, but that's true. Well,
Yeah,
there is a concept of when you're standing, like if someone is above like a couple inches of your eye line,
yeah.
you can't gauge their height
They're just
properly.
tall. Like, I'm just like, wow,
There,
you're
and same
tall.
thing if you're taller looking down. Anything that's within like I think
Short.
a couple inches of your eye line, either up or down, will be you can't tell. Yeah, like
Is that what
exactly
you
like
think of me?
no, I
Just
know what your
short.
height is. I know what your height is, but if I saw another person that was 5 feet, would I know that they're five
Oh,
feet, or
just
would I think
expose
they were?
it right now. God damn it.
Well, I mean,
It's
we're
fine.
there.
It's
We're at that
fine.
point. We're just
True.
at that point. But
Okay.
I just mean like I even though I know
Yeah,
what
I
your height
wouldn't
is,
register.
if I saw someone else that was your height or shorter or taller, I don't think I would immediately know
Because
like
it
what
doesn't
their
just
height
like
is.
ding. It's not like, ah, that person's 6 foot. Ah, that person's 5'8". Whatever. Like, it's
Yeah.
definitely, yeah, it's just, it's relative. But like, now that I'm thinking about, now that you mentioned it, I'm like, holy shit, that's gigantic. This man's is huge. And so I'm just like, he's like towering over everyone. He's like this big. How is he not intimidated? How was Lou not intimidated? Like,
I mean, that's why she has such. They show like her having such a big demeanor,
mm,
like personality wise, against him because I think that was her only like
yeah, my personality adds
the
10 feet. Haha.
that's like the only way for her to defend herself, I think, because physically it would have been hard without using her powers.
That's, yeah, that
And I
makes
think
sense.
that's scary. That's something that she just was like, I'm a do.
Well,
Like,
I mean, like,
what if
she
he
didn't have
wasn't
a choice,
good?
right? Hmm?
No, she did. I mean, she could have. I mean, she decides to essentially be in the tower that they live in because she
Oh,
thinks
yeah.
that's the safest place from her coven.
Well, yeah, because I mean, like, honestly, the enemy of your enemy is my friend, right? That
I
whole
think
idea.
that's exactly what's like stated like in her thought process.
Look at me
I mean,
quoting
that's
the
a
book, and I
very
didn't
basic.
even know it.
I know it's a
Just
basic
give me
line
this. Just give me
used
this
in.
dub. Can I have this win? No. Okay. You already exposed me. Just let me have this, okay?
All right, all right, all
Thank
right.
you. Thank you. I needed that. But yeah, like, I think it's so, like, her thought process is valid though. Like, I think she fears her coven more than she fears being discovered as
Yeah,
like
she's.
a
Well, I mean,
witch.
the it as you learn, the result of either of those things is the same: being discovered as a witch or being found by her coven.
This be true.
So there's nothing to lose essentially.
Yeah, but I feel like there's more of an impact for one of them than the other.
That's true.
And I think like that's why she was like, okay, like I can handle this as long
So
as
that's
that
why she
doesn't happen.
prefers the lesser evil,
Yeah. Yeah,
again, like
exactly.
in balancing out what was the best path to take.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah, I think that I don't know, her whole story too is like not just like the enemies to lovers, but like the whole no like safe haven type deal is like
No
interesting.
home, maybe
Yeah, no
like not
home, no
having like
safe
a good
haven.
home or
Mhm.
place to call home,
Yeah, place to call home.
and instead of a physical place, finding it with people, which is what home is technically. It's not about the
Yeah.
place you live in, but the people that you have to call it home.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah,
think
but I
it's
think it's
also
like
her
yeah.
finding those people and
Mm,
Reed eventually becoming that type of person for her.
yeah. Definitely like also finding that in like the unlikely places cuz like even with like we mentioned Ansel, like she never thought that she would be friends with a Chaucer, but like Ansel shows her that like they're not all like meanie butts.
Oh, well said.
Well said.
Well
Thank you.
phrased.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
That is how I would have also
Uh-huh.
talked about the
Yes.
behavior.
Yes. Yes. Indeed. Thank you. I
Hmm.
know. I'm mature for my age.
I I mean, Meanie butts. All right.
But yeah, so like I think that's like interesting too to see. It's not just like an enemies to lovers types trope, but it's like even so like more so like communities that like you never thought you would relate with, you relate
Yeah,
to.
it's the found family
Yeah,
concept.
that's a big thing too. But I think it's cool that I don't know. I like all of these tropes. I'm fans of them. She does it well. Like she depicts these friendships and these unspoken type relationships very well.
Yeah. In for one book so far, she I think built the world
Oh, the
of
world
this
is
fantasy
good.
world well in the time or like time in the pages that she had to fill the time in,
Yes.
because I think in other books I still have trouble like knowing exactly how that fantasy world functions
Mm.
and without having to go through the whole series or like
Yeah, she sets it up really well. Like she introduces like the whole witch against Chaucer type deal, the city, the characters for the most part she does like well, and she also explains the whole like types of witches too, like the Dame Rouge, the Dame Blanche, like all
mm,
of those. She like there's no real confusion because she really does a good job of like illustrating. Even though like okay, so
I think
like
it's
books,
more like a good blend between realistically how life was,
yeah,
maybe in like what, like 1800s, 1700s
yeah,
France,
yeah,
and just like implementing this fantasy aspect, which honestly, like the belief of existed at that
yeah.
time, right? Like people
Oh yeah,
believed they existed, so it's like that historical aspect is still was still is true thing that people
yeah,
believe they existed. Um, but this is just like saying, haha, they were. Like how
yes.
life would have been if like witches were
Aha,
going around
it's real.
using
Like,
powers and like
yeah,
attacking.
it seems legit.
Mm.
Um, no, like I definitely think that like a lot of shows like make stuff out of like the whole like witch burning type thing, magic. Like I remember, I don't know if I mentioned it like last week in the Lucifer episode, but like the character Tom Ellis was, I knew him from Merlin,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that whole ideal is this is kind of similar in that like magic is forbidden, and like if you are caught practicing it, like you are burned or you are killed, like something happens. So
yeah.
it's like playing off of that belief and that kind of, it's not Arthurian, but it's kind of Arthurian legend of like magic and fantasy and all that type of stuff. But it's
I mean
set.
that it the magic being bad is tied to the religious beliefs that it's associated with satanic rituals. So
Ooh, yeah, yes, good old
you
Lucifer bringing that back.
yeah.
But yeah, no, I think yeah, that's definitely like a good point to make. But yeah, I think it's also cool for me. Like I loved like reading the Arthurian legend books like growing up, and it's cool to
Mhm.
see like it applied in not just like a British like London UK vibe, but in a French vibe, which I haven't read or like seen before because it's
Yeah,
not
that's true. I think
popular.
uh English is always heavy. It still is, right? This whole
Mhm.
book is in English, but like it's implementing a different language and how
Mhm.
you could talk about that
Yeah.
world in a sense.
Also, I find French as just like a language and like the names is like not as so like entertaining almost because like Jean Pierre or like Jean Luc, I like it's fun to say, and so like when I'm reading, I like
Even if
to
you're
hear it
saying
in
it completely wrong, like you don't know
yeah,
if you're saying it right. Just
this
like
is
to
true, but like
pretend that you have a French accent when you're talking.
yes, yes, and it's not like to make fun of French people. It's just because like I like to read, like I like to hear it, so I know like
Yeah, a different accent sounds nicer than your own.
we've seen this from One Direction and such. So we are aware that
Is that a dig at me?
a little bit, a little bit, a little bit.
Yo, chill. That was
Iris house.
unnecessary.
It's cool.
We weren't even there.
No, it's cool. It's cool. It's cool. I mean, like it relates, so I was just like, I may as well throw that in there. Um,
This is payback for like mentioning your height
oh
like
yes,
10
most
minutes ago.
definitely. Thank you. Yeah.
All right.
Back to Serpent and Dove, to your regularly scheduled programming. No, definitely like a good book. She does it well, and I, for one, am a fan of the build-up, and I'm so looking forward to Blood and Honey, which I'm hopefully going to be able to read soon. I don't know.
If
But
time permits in our weirdly busy schedule,
oh my
like
god, yeah.
yeah, because we were talking about earlier before we started this was how recording this the day before Labor Day, but we actually don't get Labor Day off for the semester due to
Yes.
adjusting for
Corona.
COVID and stuff,
Yeah.
and so our college is not giving us tomorrow off, and I'm
We have never missed it more.
upset. And so, obviously we won't really have proper free time until Thanksgiving break.
Literally. I was like, I need these, like, because, like, I feel like at least every month of, like, our college semester, we have, like, some sort of thing. Like, September, we had, like, Labor Day. October, we had, like, our own, like, fall break type
Yeah, we got
deal.
2 days off in a week in October for fall break. We lose
It was
that too
so
this time
nice.
around.
Yeah, and then, like, we had November, we had, a 2 days off for that, and then December, we had, like, a break, but now it's just go, 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 and honestly, it's week 2, starting week 3, and I am already exhausted.
That's because you overloaded your schedule. I mean, I'm still tired
Okay.
too because the
That's a little aggressive.
just putting it out there.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm tired too because it's just going from doing basically nothing to suddenly
Yes.
doing
To
things
literally
for
screwing around for the summer.
yeah, is a lot on our emotional,
Oh,
mental
definitely.
strength as
Like,
students.
also being home, like, my family is, like, one that likes to be very active, so, like, this morning, I got up at 6:50 and we went on, like, a 2.5 hour hike with my
Oh,
family,
rip.
it was
Rip.
we got home at, like, 12, and I am exhausted, frankly. Like,
Yeah, that's physically exhausting now.
I'm physically I'm, like, mentally exhausted because 'cause I'm like, "Guys, I don't wake," like, Samantha can confirm this, I do not wake up early. It is not in me to do that, like, regularly.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's
Like
both of us now.
like,
I think
freshman
I'm
year,
the
y'all would come and knock on my door to make
I
sure
think
I was
I'm
up.
the torchbearer for that now because
Mm.
my sleep schedule is messed. Messed.
Messy.
Yeah. You know what? That's besides the point. See, this is what happens when we don't have like a strict talking schedule. I don't know if it's good or bad. That's up to you guys listening more than us.
I mean, at the
But
end of the day, this is a conversation between friends, and the
no, we
topics
just
it
like
covers,
we just spent like 30 minutes talking about other things and then 15 about the book.
they weren't gonna check us for that, and now they might. Why?
I mean, like I think we also said like talking without being able to talk about specifics in this book, there's less to talk about.
Definitely, and like, yeah, again, like, because books are a little bit more of a commitment, we don't want to spoil it for anyone because that's just like, then you're like, what's the point? Like, I'm not really gonna read it, and
We
we want
want you
you
to be
guys to read it.
motivated to read it
Yeah,
because maybe you didn't hear about it before until now.
and maybe this piques your interest, and
Yeah. I mean, I will be honest, I found out about this book on TikTok when I had TikTok. I deleted it because of school starting and everything, but like essentially I was on book TikTok and
oh, we
basically
love
there's
that.
like book recommendations and like every time for some reason the algorithm figured out that I liked enemies to lovers. Tragic that they found that out. And
I
so
mean, are we really surprised? No.
no. And so constantly it would be like, "Oh, you like enemies to lovers? Well, read Serpent and Dove." And I was like, okay, it's only I thought it was like a single book or whatever, so I was like, fine. It's better than reading like a 5 book series."
Yeah.
And so I gave it a shot, and then I recommended it to Rhea, and then here
Yeah,
we
and
are.
I was like, all right, this seems like something interesting. Then I read it and I was like, oh my God, we have to discuss. And literally the next like 4 or 5 days we spent just talking about like Serpent Dove and like all the little things and the intricacies and everything.
Which is what we normally do when we finish watching or reading something that
This
in
is, yeah,
common
that
we'll
like
spend.
one of us recommends or something like that.
Now we've been holding off on it so that we could talk about it in during like
This.
this,
Like
which
we're like,
is
whoa,
new
whoa,
for
whoa,
us.
save it for the podcast.
Yeah. We actually have to like cut ourselves off. You
Well,
cut
like,
me off
we'll,
actually, because
yeah.
I'll get passionate and then you'll be like, wait.
Just like, but what about this? Because like I'm like, I like the passion. I appreciate the passion, but I want to bring the passion to other people too. You know, I want them to share the passion. I want them to
In the
get
flow
hyped.
of our conversation, it comes up, and then I keep going.
And then I go, wait, stop,
Yeah, maybe
hold
we
up.
go back a little. Hold it
Yeah.
for another thing.
But also because like we have a tendency to like go down a rabbit hole too.
I
So like
mean, I mean, yes,
as
absolutely.
evidenced by this podcast episode.
Yes.
And so like the thing is if we start talking about one thing, it'll just go all the way down.
We
Like,
talk until we're dry. It's like there's nothing else to talk about.
yeah.
We'll
We
run it into the ground so that we feel like we've
yeah.
completed our conversation on it, and then we don't bring it up like later. But
Yeah. And then like maybe like a couple months, like 6 to like 8 months after we'll be like, yo, like something new happened with this show or movie or
mm,
book, and we'll be like, hey. And then we'll start talking about it kind of again a little bit more
yeah,
and like what we liked about it.
yeah.
It's fine. It works for us. That's all I'm saying.
Annoy each other on like one thing, or that's more me. I think I'm talking for myself at this point, but like when I'll like get obsessed about something and I'll do all of this research and looking into, and then I'll just like uh,
Literally. Oh my god.
keep talking about it to Rhea, and then she'll be like, dang, like why do you know so much about this? And I'm like, I don't know, I just started going and now I can't stop. And then like 3 days later I just completely don't mention it again, and then she'll like
Yes.
try to bring it up to me as though like there's something, and I'll just be like, oh yeah, sure. I'm just like bored.
So done. And it's so sad because I'm like now that like I've gotten into it, she's like, I'm done, I'm over it. And I'm like, okay, screw
Okay,
you
no,
too,
I don't.
buddy.
Oh, wait.
No. She
I
doesn't do
was
that.
I was
She's
interested. It's
it's
not
like
as
less passion. It's no more
yeah, it's not as
passion.
intense with it. So
Yeah, like literally, okay, I'm gonna expose you right now.
apparently that's what this has turned into. So
No. It's us exposing each other.
that's
It's
what I'm saying. It's turned
mutual.
into like a back and forth dig.
No, no, no. But it's like, okay, so recently Samhita started listening to Machine Gun Kelly.
Yo, wait. Damn. Okay, I
And
guess yeah.
so she like texted me like what, like 2 weeks ago, and she's like, oh my god, do you know who this
Yeah,
guy is?
I was obsessing over him
And
for
like
like
she
a
like
day.
she would like send me compilation videos of
That's how I work, though. That's
it's
just how.
yeah, I think it's great. I support you. And then like
Why does it sound like you're not supporting me?
and
It sounds like I just gave you something to hold over my head. Well, now it's being exposed, so I
exposed.
guess.
Yes. No, but it's like he was so excited. And then like I like 3 days later, I'm like, yo, so I started listening to this. I'm like, I think his music is pretty good. And she's like, yeah, right. And then that was it. Like radio silence. She was like, yes. And that
What
was
else am I
it.
supposed to do? I can't keep sending you videos. In my own defense, I know that it gets annoying, so it's like
It's
holding back
okay.
at a certain point.
But yeah, okay. I mean, yes, but like it's really funny to see like she'll get really, really hyped and she'll like want to share it.
Seeing like the start, then the peak, and
Yeah.
then it dropping off after like
It's
a week.
literally, yeah. It's like it's adorable to be honest because you get so excited and then I'm like, okay, I have to check this out because she's so excited about it, and then I check
So
it
I
out.
convert people into music or TV shows or
She,
books.
well, she exposes me to new things. She gives me new perspectives, which is why this friendship works.
Did you hear that, guys? I'm a trendsetter. I'm
Let's not get too crazy.
people that know me are just like, what the hell? No.
It's like, yeah, okay, sure. Keep going, hotshot. But
Yeah.
yeah. I think on that note we might like wrap it up.
Yeah, we keep creeping into longer and longer episodes, so
We're gonna like kind of cap it like a solid
now
like yeah
we'll
now
cap it now,
yeah.
so that we don't keep going on to
Thanks for
larger
listening,
tangents.
and I know we definitely know that this was not like our past two episodes, but we hoped you enjoyed something different and a little bit more whimsical and not as strict almost. But yeah.
Yeah, I think I always will enjoy a more casual conversation than not, and I think the last two episodes felt maybe more stiff because we were talking about trying to keep on topic for one thing, and
Yeah.
that's not usually how we roll. And this time, giving ourselves more flexibility in how what we talk about made
Man,
it go a little bit longer
yeah, the
and all over
killer.
the place than what we intended, but it is more realistic to how we communicate to one another.
So we'll see what the vibe is. If y'all like it, if y'all hate it. Either way, we're gonna just keep doing us. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this episode.
Yeah, and we'll see you
See you
next week.
next week.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.